The first time Daniel saw the man, it was nothing more than a fleeting encounter. The kind you brush off with a shiver and forget by morning. But the memory of that grin, the way it clung to the stranger's face like a permanent scar, would etch itself deep into him, long before the real nightmare began. It was the beginning of his winter break, and Daniel was exhausted. Finals had chewed through his mind like a buzzsaw, leaving him raw and half-dead, and the drive home felt endless. He didn't have money for a motel, not after tuition and books had drained his bank account to fumes. So he relied on his aging Honda, a battered four-door sedan that rattled whenever he hit 60, to be his only safe haven. He figured he'd drive as far as he could, nap at a rest stop, and then push through the next morning. It was a plan born of necessity, not comfort. The first rest stop appeared just before midnight. Its glowing sign promised coffee and clean restrooms, and Daniel pulled in with relief, shoulders slumping. The parking lot was sparsely populated, two semis humming like sleeping beasts, a minivan, and a pickup truck. He parked near the edge, cracked his window to let in the icy air, and leaned his head back against the seat. That's when the knock came. It wasn't loud. Not at first. Just the faint tap-tap on glass that jolted him upright. His heart skipped. Outside, bathed in the weak yellow glow of the parking lot lights, stood a man. He looked to be in his late 50s, maybe early 60s, unkempt, with graying hair sticking out from under a stained baseball cap. His jacket was frayed at the edges, jeans torn, shoes scuffed down to near ruin. But it was his smile that froze Daniel. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was stretched too wide, revealing yellowed teeth. A smile that didn't reach the eyes. The kind of smile you only ever see in your nightmares. The man bent down, placing his face close to the glass. His breath fogged the window as he spoke. Spare some change, kid. Just a few dollars, so I can get something warm. Daniel swallowed. He wanted to be kind. His mother always said you don't know the battle strangers fight, but there was something off here. Something wrong in the man's gaze. He didn't look desperate. He looked amused, like this was a game. I don't have cash, Daniel said, voice tight. The man tilted his head, grin twitching wider. Sure you don't. College boy like you, bet you got a whole wallet full. Daniel's stomach dropped. How did he know he was in college? His backpack. Maybe. The textbooks on the back seat. Still, the way the man said it made his skin crawl. I'm sorry, Daniel muttered, fumbling for his keys. I really don't. For a beat, the man just stared. Then he laughed, soft at first, then louder, until it echoed through the empty lot. He slapped the hood of the car once, making Daniel flinch, before stepping back. Suit yourself, liar, he said, voice dripping with something sharp and cruel. See you around. Daniel didn't wait. He jammed the car into reverse and pulled out, tires squealing against the asphalt. His pulse hammered. The man stood in the rearview mirror, watching him go, that same awful grin carved into his face. He drove for another hour before the exhaustion became unbearable. His eyes burned. His hands cramped on the wheel. The next exit led him to a rest stop, but this one was different. The building was boarded up. The sign half collapsed. No lights. No coffee. No people. Just a cracked lot surrounded by trees and silence. Daniel hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this wasn't safe. But his body betrayed him, his eyelids sagged. His head bobbed. He told himself it was fine. Just a few hours of sleep. He locked the doors, curled up in the back seat with his jacket as a blanket, and let the darkness take him. He didn't know how long he slept before the sound tore him awake. Bang. At first he thought it was a dream. His mind scrambled, trying to catch up. Then came another Bientai's time shaking the car. The windows rattled violently. His heart lunged into his throat as his eyes shot open. Outside, half illuminated by the weak beam of his headlights, stood the same man. The grin was still there, but twisted now with wild glee. In his hands was a baseball bat, and with every swing, he brought it down against the glass. Shards sprayed inward, peppering Daniel's skin. The man's laughter rose above the sound of shattering glass, sharp and unhinged. "You lied to me," he screamed, voice breaking into a cackle. "Liar! Liar!" Daniel scrambled forward, fumbling for the keys. His hands shook so violently he almost dropped them. The bat came down again, indenting the door. The man leaned close, eyes gleaming, as if the violence filled him with joy. "Open up, boy," he shouted. "Let's have some fun." Panic surged through Daniel's chest, a suffocating wave that nearly paralyzed him. But adrenaline pushed harder. He twisted the key. The engine sputtered, coughed, then roared to life. The man's grin faltered for just a second. Enough. Daniel slammed the car into drive and floored it. Tires screamed against the cracked pavement as the Honda lurched forward. The man gave chase, bat still in hand, his laughter trailing like a ghost. The last thing Daniel saw in the rearview mirror was that twisted smile fading into the shadows as the car sped away. His breaths came in ragged gasps, tears stinging his eyes. The cold night air rushed in through the shattered window, burning his lungs. His hands were slick with sweat, trembling uncontrollably on the wheel. When he finally found signal, miles down the interstate, he grabbed his phone with shaking fingers and dialed 911. The dispatcher's calm voice grounded him just enough to speak. His words tumbled out, frantic, half-choked by sobs. "There was a manha attacked Mayhays out there with a bathe, tried to smash my car. Sir, slow down," the dispatcher said firmly. "Are you hurt?" "Two don't think so. But my car hay broke the windows. He slashed something, I can barely keep it on the road, please. You have to find him. They promised to send patrols." They told him to keep driving until he could safely stop at a lit, populated exit. But even as he drove, glass crunching beneath his shoes, wind howling through the broken window, Daniel knew they wouldn't find the man. Because the man wasn't lost. He was waiting for the next time Daniel would have to stop. That night changed Daniel forever. And yet, as dawn crept up and the adrenaline dulled into bone-deep exhaustion, another thought clawed at him, worse than the fear itself. How had the man found him again? He hadn't followed Daniel, had driven fast, lost him in the dark. So how? And more importantly, why him? The following morning, Daniel sat in a diner miles from where it all happened, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. His car sat outside, a pathetic wreck, windows smashed, dents caved into the door, one tire slashed flat. The waitress had given him a sympathetic look when he limped in, his hair wild and his jacket dusted with glass shards. But she hadn't asked questions. People rarely did when the truth sounded too insane to believe. He stared at the steam that no longer rose from the cup, replaying the man's words over and over. Liar. Why that word? Why the accusation? Spat like venom. Lida really hadn't had cash. But maybe that wasn't what the man meant. Maybe the lie was something deeper. Something Daniel didn't even realize he had told. And as that thought rooted itself in his mind, Daniel knew one thing with bone-deep certainty. This wasn't over. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, a relentless hum that drilled into Daniel's skull. He sat hunched in the corner booth, nursing the dregs of cold coffee as if it could somehow ward off the exhaustion pulling him under. His mind replayed the night again and again, each memory sharper than the last. The sound of the bat, the man's laughter, the word liar spat through cracked glass like a curse. He hadn't told the waitress anything. What could he say? That a deranged man with a grin carved into his face had hunted him across 2 rest stops, smashing his car to pieces, and then vanished like smoke. The sheriff's department had taken his report over the phone, promised to patrol the highway, but Daniel had heard the doubt in their voices. They thought he was some strung-out college kid exaggerating a run-in with a homeless drifter. But Daniel knew better. That man wasn't desperate. He wasn't looking for money, or food, or warmth. He wanted something else, something far darker. The door jingled, snapping Daniel from his thoughts. A pair of truckers entered, stomping snow from their boots, their laughter booming across the diner. The waitress hurried over with menus, and for a brief moment the world felt normal again. Safe. Even. But then Daniel caught his reflection in the diner's window pane. Eyes bloodshot, jacket streaked with grime and tiny cuts across his face, and the illusion crumbled. He looked like prey that had barely escaped the jaws of something monstrous. His phone buzzed on the table. He flinched, heart lurching, before snatching it up. It was his mother. Danny. Her voice was warm, anxious. "Sweetheart, where are you? You said you'd be home last night." He swallowed hard. The words jammed in his throat. How could he explain without scaring her to death? I had car trouble," he said finally, voice hoarse. Not a complete lie. "I'll be home later today." "Car trouble. Are you safe?" "Yeah. Just tired." She paused, clearly unconvinced, but didn't press further. "Drive careful, honey. The roads are icy. I'll have soup waiting." "Thanks, Mom." He forced steadiness into his tone. "See you soon." When the call ended, Daniel let the phone drop to the table. His hands were trembling again. He told himself it was fatigue. Just fatigue. But deep down, he knew. The man would come back. By late morning, Daniel had managed to arrange a tow truck to replace his slashed tire and at least patch the windows with plastic sheeting. It wasn't much, but it would get him home. The mechanic who worked on the car, a burly guy with grease-stained hands, had frowned at the damage. "Someone do this to you on purpose?" Daniel hesitated. "Yeah." The man shook his head. "World's full of crazies. Best get yourself home and stay there." Sound advice. Daniel thought grimly. If only it were that simple. The highway stretched ahead like a gray ribbon, endless and cold. His patched window whistled as the wind tore through the plastic. Every few miles, he checked the rearview mirror, expecting to see headlights tailing him. Or worse, the shape of that man, running impossibly fast down the asphalt, grin splitting his face. But there was nothing. Just empty road. By early afternoon, fatigue began to gnaw at him again. His eyelids grew heavy. His head dipped. He slapped his cheek, cranked the radio, even rolled down the patched window to let in the icy air. But it wasn't enough. His body was shutting down. When he saw another rest stop sign, his chest clenched. The memories clawed up instantly, vivid as fire. The bat, the glass, the word liar echoing in his skull. No, not again. But he couldn't keep driving. His vision blurred, the lines of the road wavering. If he didn't stop, he'd crash. This rest stop looked newer, lights bright. People moving in and out of the building. Families, truckers, travelers with steaming cups of coffee in hand. It was nothing like the abandoned husk from the night before. Safe, Daniel told himself. This one is safe. He parked near the building, in full view of the lights, and climbed out. His legs felt rubbery, his head light. The cold bit into his skin, but he welcomed it. It kept him awake. Inside, the air smelled of fried food and disinfectant. He bought a coffee, extra strong, and sat at a table near the window, forcing himself to sip slowly. Around him, life moved on as if nothing had happened. A father coaxed a toddler into eating fries. A group of teenagers laughed over sodas. A trucker snoozed in the corner booth. Normalcy. Comfort. And yet Daniel's gaze kept flicking to the glass doors, half expecting that man to walk through at any moment. Bat resting casually on his shoulder. Grin wide and terrible. He didn't. But as Daniel returned to his car, coffee warming his hands, he froze. There, tucked under his windshield wiper, was a scrap of paper. His stomach dropped. He looked around wildly. People milled about. Cars came and went. No one out of place. But his skin prickled with the unmistakable sensation of being watched. With shaking fingers, he plucked the note free. For words, scrawled in jagged handwriting, I know the truth. The coffee nearly slipped from his grasp. His heart thundered, pulse roaring in his ears. He spun, scanning the lot. A man in a suit talking on his phone. A family loading their van. A trucker locking his rig. None of them looked at him. But someone had written this. Someone had slid it onto his car while he was inside for less than 15 minutes. The grin flashed in his mind again. Daniel stuffed the note into his pocket, dove into his car, and locked the doors. His breath came fast, shallow, fogging the patched plastic of his window. He started the engine with trembling hands and pulled out of the lot, barely remembering to check for oncoming traffic. The highway swallowed him again, endless and gray. But now every shadow on the shoulder, every car that lingered too long in his mirror, sent jolts of fear through him. The man knew where he was. And Wursa knew something about Daniel. Something Daniel himself didn't understand. Hours blurred. His phone buzzed with texts from friends. His mother checking in. But he ignored them. His focus narrowed to the road. To survival. He gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles whitened. Dusk fell. The sky bruised purple. Then black. His headlights carved tunnels through the darkness. And then, the light ahead. Blue and red. Relief surged. Police. A cruiser sat parked on the shoulder. Lights flashing. Daniel pulled over instinctively, heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. He rolled down what was left of his driver's side window as the officer approached. The man was tall, middle-aged, with a trimmed mustache and tired eyes. His badge glinted under the flashing lights. "Evening," the officer said. "Everything all right?" "Yes," Daniel blurted, too quickly. Then, catching himself, "I'm Iano. Someone's been following me. Attacked me, actually, last night." The officer frowned. "Attacked you?" Daniel gestured weakly at the car. "He smashed my windows, slashed my tire. I called 911. They said they'd send patrols." The officer leaned closer, inspecting the damage. His frown deepened. "You the kid that called from mile marker 72?" Daniel's chest loosened. "Yes, that was me." "Name?" "Daniel Mercer." The officer scribbled it down. "All right, Daniel. I'll file this. But between you and me," he sighed, lowering his voice, "we've had reports of a drifter causing trouble along this stretch. Fits the description you gave. Mean son of a gun. But slippery. Never stays put. We'll keep looking." Daniel nodded, though dread coiled tighter inside him. Slippery. Never stays put. The officer's gaze softened. "Get yourself home, son. Don't stop till you're there. And if you see him again, don't play hero. Call us." "I will." The officer patted the roof of the car, then returned to his cruiser. Daniel drove off, heart hammering. For the first time, someone believed him, and yet the reassurance was thin, fragile. The man wasn't just some drifter. Daniel could feel it in his bones. Because as the miles slipped by, a new thought gnawed at him, darker than the rest. What if the man wasn't following him at all? What if he was leading him somewhere? By the time Daniel crossed into his hometown, the clock on his dash blinked past midnight. The streets were quiet, houses dark under blankets of snow. His childhood home appeared at the end of the block, warm light glowing in the front window. Relief surged so hard it almost brought him to tears. He pulled into the driveway, shut off the engine, and sat there, trembling. Safe. He was finally safe. But as he climbed out of the car, something crunched under his boot. A scrap of paper. He bent down, dread already coiling in his chest. For words. The same jagged hand. "Welcome home, liar." Daniel's scream tore the silence of the night. Daniel's scream cracked the stillness of the night. But no one came. His neighborhood, once so familiar and safe, felt like a stage stripped bare, houses shuttered. Streets empty. Silence pressing in like a suffocating fog. He staggered back from the note on his driveway, chest heaving, mind spinning. "Welcome home, liar." The words swam in his vision. Jagged strokes burned into his brain. His hands shook violently as he snatched the paper, crushed it into a ball, and shoved it into his pocket. He wanted to pretend it didn't exist, that it was some cruel coincidence, but deep down, he knew better. The man had been here. The man had touched his home. Shivers crawled up Daniel's spine as he fumbled for his house keys, his gaze darting across the darkened street. Every shadow seemed alive. every tree branch stretching like a claw. He forced the door open, nearly stumbling inside before slamming it shut and locking it tight. "Danny!" His mother's voice floated from the kitchen. She appeared in the doorway, wearing her worn flannel robe, hair in soft curls around her face. Relief flooded her eyes. "Oh, sweetheart." She rushed forward, wrapping her arms around him. "You're finally home." Daniel held her tightly, burying his face in her shoulder. The smell of soup clung to her, comforting and warm, but he couldn't stop shaking. She leaned back, frowning. "What happened to your car?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. He wanted to protect her, to shield her from the madness clawing at him. But the image of that note burned too hot. "Someone," he swallowed hard. "Someone followed me." Her frown deepened, but she kept her voice calm. "Followed you. On the highway. Since last night. At a rest stop." His words spilled faster now, trembling, desperate. "He smashed my windows. He had a Batmom. He found me again. He left a note here." Her face paled. "What note?" Daniel dug into his pocket, pulling out the crumpled ball. His hands shook as he smoothed it on the counter. Her eyes scanned the jagged writing, and she pressed a hand to her mouth. "Oh, God. I don't understand," Daniel whispered. "Why me? Why liar? I don't know him." She gripped his arms, voice firm despite her fear. "Call the police. Now." Minutes later, the house filled with the low murmur of officers taking statements. Flashlights sweeping across the yard. Neighbors peeked from windows, faces pale in the glow of porch lights. Daniel sat on the couch, clutching a mug of untouched soup, his gaze fixed on the note bagged in evidence. Two officers conferred quietly near the door, while a third crouched in front of Daniel. His name tag read LT. Harmon. He had tired eyes, like the highway officer from before, but there was a sharper edge to his tone. "Daniel, you're sure you've never seen this man before last night?" "Yes," Daniel said, his voice raw. "I don't know him. I swear." Harmon studied him. "You said he called you a liar. Any idea what that's about?" Daniel shook his head, frustration boiling. "I don't know. I didn't lie. I didn't have cash." Harmon nodded slowly, jotting notes. "We'll increase patrols in the area. For tonight, lock your doors. Stay inside. We'll do what we can." It wasn't enough. Daniel could see it in his eyes. They thought he was just another unlucky kid spooked by a drifter. As the officers left, Daniel's mother touched his shoulder gently. "Come to bed. You need rest." Rest. The word felt impossible. But he followed her upstairs, to his childhood room where posters still clung to the walls, relics of a simpler time. She kissed his forehead, just like she had when he was small, and whispered, "You're safe now." But as Daniel lay staring at the ceiling, every creak of the house made him flinch. Sleep came in jagged snatches, torn by visions of the man's grin pressing against glass. He woke to the sound of tapping. Soft, rhythmic. At first, he thought it was rain against the window, but when he turned his head, dread sank cold into his stomach. A shadow loomed just beyond the glass. Tap, Tap, tap. His breath caught. Body frozen. The curtains fluttered with the faintest movement. And then slow-lithe figure leaned into view. The grin. Daniel's scream tore from his throat before he could stop it. He scrambled from bed, crashing into the nightstand, lamp clattering to the floor. His mother's footsteps thundered up the stairs. The shadow vanished. By the time she burst into the room, breathless and panicked, there was nothing outside but the whisper of wind through the trees. "Danny, what is it?" she gasped. He pointed, shaking violently. He was here, at the window. Her face went ashen. She rushed to the glass, fumbling with the lock. But the yard lay empty, quiet. No footprints in the snow. No sign of anyone at all. Daniel's chest heaved. "Eyes burning. I swear. Mom." He was right there, smiling. She pulled him close, whispering over and over, "It's okay. It's okay. You're safe." But they both knew it was a lie. The next days blurred into a waking nightmare. Daniel couldn't shake the sense of being watched. Shadows shifted in corners. Footsteps echoed where there should be silence. Every knock at the door made his skin crawl. The police patrolled. Yes, but never when it mattered. The man appeared in flashes, always just beyond reach. A face glimpsed in a store window reflection. A laugh carried on the wind. Notes left where Daniel couldn't ignore them. "Liar. You can't hide. Tell them the truth." The words haunted him, scratched into his dreams. He stopped sleeping. His mother begged him to see a doctor, to rest, to believe it was stress. But Daniel knew. This wasn't in his head. The man was real. And he was getting closer. One night, unable to bear the walls closing in, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with a pile of the notes spread before him. Each one was written in the same jagged hand, each one accusing. He traced the words with trembling fingers, desperate to understand. "What truth?" He whispered. "What do you want from me?" A sound answered. Not from outside. From upstairs. Floorboards groaned slow, deliberate. His blood turned to ice. "Mom," he called, voice breaking. No answer. He grabbed the nearest thing he could, a kitchen knife, and crept toward the stairs. Each step creaked beneath him, his breath shallow, sweat chilling his skin. Another groan above. A shift of weight. Someone was up there. He reached the top landing, heart in his throat. His mother's door stood ajar. He pushed it open slowly. Empty. Her bed was neatly made, untouched. Confusion slammed into him. She should have been asleep hours ago. Where was she? Then he heard it. A low laugh, drifting from his own room. Daniel's knees nearly buckled. He forced himself forward, knife trembling in his grip. The door to his childhood room gaped open, darkness pooling inside. He raised the knife, stepped in, and froze. On his desk sat a single note, fresh ink glistening under the glow of the street lamp outside. "I have her." Daniel's scream shook the house. He tore through the rooms, calling her name, his voice raw. Empty. The house was empty. Panic clawed at his throat as he stumbled into the driveway, snow crunching underfoot. His car sat where he left it, but something dangled from the rearview mirror. Her robe belt. The frayed flannel cord swayed in the night air, mocking him, Daniel collapsed to his knees, knife clattering into the snow. His breath came in shuddering gasps, his vision swimming. The man had her, and Daniel knew, with soul-deep certainty, that the only way to get her back was to give the man what he wanted. The truth. But what truth? What lie had he told? What sin had he hidden, that this nightmare demanded repayment for? His memory spun back, clawing through the years. Childhood games, high school nights, college stresses. Nothing stood out until one image surged forward, sharp as glass. A night 3 years ago. Party. Too much beer. Laughter too loud. A fight in the parking lot. A man stumbling into the road. Brakes screeching. A thud. Daniel had buried it. Told himself it wasn't his fault. That he hadn't been the one driving. That someone else had called for help. That the man had survived. But what if that wasn't true? What if the lie he'd been telling was to himself? Daniel staggered to his feet, chest heaving, tears freezing on his cheeks. The man wasn't a stranger. He was a reckoning. And the truth he demanded was Daniel's sin. Daniel staggered in the driveway, lungs burning from the cold air and the terror squeezing them shut. He clutched the robe belt in his hand like a lifeline, his mother's scent still faint on the fabric. The night pressed in from every side, thick and suffocating. Somewhere, beyond the neat rows of suburban houses, that man was out there grinning, waiting, pulling the strings of this nightmare tighter and tighter. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket. He jolted, fumbling it out with numb fingers. The screen glared in the dark. Unknown number. His throat closed. The phone rang again. With shaking hands, he answered. At first, nothing. Just the hiss of static. Then, a laugh. Low, guttural, drawn out until it scraped along his spine. Looking for her. The man's voice slithered through the speaker. Poor mama. Sweet. Trusting. She believes every word you say. Daniel's knees gave out. He dropped onto the icy driveway, clutching the phone. Where is she? What do you want? The laugh came again. Louder. Wilder. The truth. Boy. That's all I ever wanted. But you don't even know what that is. Do you? You've been lying so long. You believe it yourself. I don't know what you mean. Daniel's voice cracked. I swear to God. I don't know you. I don't know what you're talking about. The man's breath hissed through the line. Liar. The call ended. Daniel hurled the phone into the snow, rage and terror boiling together until his vision blurred. His scream tore through the night, but the empty houses swallowed it whole. He wanted to collapse, to give up, but his mother's face, her warm, worried eyes, her arms wrapped around him when he stumbled home, rose in his mind. He couldn't fail her. He forced himself inside, slamming the door, locking it again and again until his fingers bled from twisting the bolt. He retrieved his phone, soaked and cold, but it still worked. He called the police, voice hoarse, begging for them to come. They promised a unit was on the way, but he heard the same note in their voices as before, doubt. He didn't have time to wait. If the man had his mother, every second mattered. Daniel's mind clawed back to that memory, the party, the fight, the accident. He had pushed it down for years, drowned it with excuses and half-truths. But the man's words peeled it open like a wound. He remembered stumbling out of the house, drunk and angry after an argument with a friend. He remembered shoving some stranger who had mouthed off at him in the parking lot. He remembered headlights screaming too late through the dark, the sickening thud of impact. He remembered running. His friends had dragged him away, told him to shut up, told him it wasn't his fault. The man had been drunk too. No one could prove who pushed who. They'd never spoken of it again. Daniel had buried it, convinced himself it was over. But what if the man had died? What if his family never forgave? What if the stranger outside his car window wasn't just a drifter, but a ghost or worse? The brother, father, someone who had sworn vengeance. Daniel clutched the robe belt tighter. His chest heaved with guilt so sharp it was almost physical. "Mom," he whispered. "I'll find you. I'll make it right." The police arrived half an hour later, lights flashing across the snow. They searched the house, the yard, the street. No signs of forced entry. No footprints except Daniel's. No evidence his mother had been taken at all. "Are you sure she didn't go somewhere?" "LT?" Harmon asked carefully, his pen hovering over his notepad. Daniel's voice shook. "She wouldn't. Not without telling me." "She live alone?" "Yes." "Any chance she went to a friend's house? Church group? Late errand?" "No." Daniel snapped, desperation cracking his words. "He has her. The man has her. He left me this." He shoved the robe belt toward them, but the officers exchanged wary glances. Harmon sighed. "Daniel, listen. We'll file a missing persons report. But right now, we don't have evidence of abduction. No struggle. No witnesses. If she turns up tomorrow safe, you'll feel better. Get some rest." Rest. Always rest. Daniel wanted to scream at them, shake them until they understood. But he saw the doubt in their eyes, the quiet conclusion already forming. Stressed kid. Hallucinating threats. Too much caffeine and not enough sleep. They left him in a hollow house, their flashing lights receding down the block until silence swallowed everything again. Daniel stood in the kitchen, staring at the robe belt in his hand. He thought of the man's grin, of the word liar echoing in his skull, of the memory he had buried 3 years ago. This wasn't going to end with the police. This was between him and the man. The next day, Daniel drove. He didn't know where. The highway stretched out before him, cold and endless, the same asphalt where the nightmare began. He checked every rest stop, every abandoned building, every shadow between the trees. He searched for signs of his mother, for scraps of clothing, for another note. Hours blurred. His body ached. His mind unraveled. But he kept going, fueled by terror and guilt. Near dusk, he pulled into a forgotten gas station, its windows boarded, pumps long dead. The wind cut sharp through the cracks in the boards. He sat in his car, staring at the ruins, heart thudding with a strange certainty. He was here. Daniel stepped out, crunching across the snow. The air stank of rust and mildew. His breath puffed in white clouds. "Where are you?" he shouted, voice echoing against the hollow walls. "I'm here. You wanted the truth. Fine. I'll give it to you." Silence. Then, A laugh. It rose from behind the building, low and mocking. Daniel spun, knife clutched in his hand, every nerve screaming. The man emerged slowly from the shadows, bat resting on his shoulder, grin wide as ever. His eyes gleamed with wild delight. Finally, he drawled. Finally, the liar speaks. Daniel's throat tightened. Where's my mother? The grin widened. Safe. For now. Give her back. Tell me the truth, boy. The man's voice sharpened, venom curling in every word. Say it. Say what you did. Daniel's vision blurred with rage and shame. I didn't. The man's laugh cut him off, harsh and cruel. He swung the bat down, smashing it into the snow with a crack. Liar. Daniel flinched, knife trembling in his hand. His chest heaved as the memory clawed deeper. Unavoidable now. He saw the man from that night again drunk, stumbling, shouting. He saw his own hand shove. He saw headlights, blood, silence. His voice broke. I didn't mean to. The grin faltered. Just for a moment. Daniel dropped to his knees, tears streaking his face. I pushed him into the road. He died. I lied to everyone. I told myself it wasn't me, that it wasn't my fault. But it was. It was me. The words tore from him like flesh from bone. Raw. Final. The man tilted his head, studying him. Then, slowly, the grin curved back across his face. Good boy, he whispered. And from behind the building, Daniel heard Ithis' mother's voice. Muffled. Desperate. Danny. He surged to his feet, heart exploding in his chest. Daniel's legs moved before his mind caught up. The sound of his mother's voice strained, muffled, but real, cut through the fog of fear and guilt like a blade. He sprinted toward the sound, knife clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Mom! I'm here. He screamed, stumbling around the corner of the building. A broken door sagged open, its frame splintered and hanging by one hinge. The cry had come from inside. The air stank of mold, damp wood, and something metallic that churned his stomach. Behind him, the man's laugh rang out again. Run, little liar. Run to Mama. Daniel shoved inside. The building was half collapsed. The roof bowed inward. Broken shelves leaned against each other like brittle bones. His breath echoed against the walls, his boots crunching on shattered glass. Mom! He whispered, his voice shaking. A muffled sob answered. He followed it, heart hammering, until he saw her, his mother, tied to a chair in the corner. Her gray hair was tangled, her cheeks streaked with tears, but her eyes lit up when she saw him. Danny! She gasped through the gag. Relief and fury tore through him all at once. He rushed forward, slashing at the ropes with his knife. It's okay, Mom. I've got you. You're safe now. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. The man was here. The bat whistled through the air. Daniel ducked instinctively, the wood smashing into the wall with a deafening crack. Dust rained down. Daniel spun, knife raised. The man loomed in the doorway, grin stretched impossibly wide, eyes glinting with manic delight. You think you get to walk away? He hissed. You think confession wipes it clean? Daniel's chest heaved. Take me. Whatever you want. Take it out on me. But let her go. The man's laugh boomed, shaking the rotten beams overhead. Noble liar. Sweet liar. You think you can bargain now? He lifted the bat, pointing it at Daniel. Truth has a price, boy. And you haven't paid it yet. Daniel lunged. The knife slashed forward. Desperate. Wild. The man dodged, swinging the bat. It smashed into Daniel's shoulder, pain exploding white-hot down his arm. He screamed but kept moving, stabbing blindly. The knife grazed the man's side. He snarled, rage flashing across his grin. Good. He growled. Fight for her. Fight for the lie. Daniel staggered back, vision swimming. His mother screamed through the gag, eyes wide with terror as the man advanced. Daniel's mind fractured between fear, guilt, and determination. He remembered that night, the headlights, the body on the road, the silence afterward. He remembered swearing to himself it wasn't his fault, that he hadn't meant it, that it would disappear if he buried it deep enough. But it hadn't disappeared. It had grown, festered, taken shape in this grinning monster. And if he didn't end it now, it would take everything. The man swung again. Daniel ducked low, rolling across the floor, shards of glass cutting his palms. He came up behind the chair, fumbling with the ropes, slicing frantically. Hold on, Mom. He gasped. The man roared, charging forward. Daniel yanked the last rope free. His mother stumbled up, arms weak but desperate. Run. He shouted. She hesitated, reaching for him, but the man's shadow loomed. Daniel shoved her toward the door. Go. Now. She ran, stumbling through the broken doorway into the snow. Daniel turned back just as the bat swung down. He barely raised the knife in time. Wood slammed against metal, sparks of pain jolting through his arm. The force knocked him to the ground. The man loomed over him, grinning wider, eyes wild. You can't kill the truth, he whispered. You can't bury it. Daniel's vision blurred, the knife slipping in his bloody hand. He saw the man lift the bat again, ready to crush his skull. And in that split second, Daniel stopped running. He didn't push the memory away. He let it in, all of it. The shove, the headlights, the scream, the lie, the cowardice, the years of silence. Yes. He whispered hoarsely. I killed him. The man froze. The bat trembled in his hands. The grin flickered, faltered. Daniel forced the words out, everyone a knife in his chest. I shoved him. He fell. He died because of me. And I lied. I ran. I let everyone believe it wasn't me. But it was. It was my fault. The words echoed in the rotting walls, heavy and final. The man's chest heaved. His eyes burned with something between rage and grief. The grin slipped away, replaced by a twisted snarl. Say his name. He spat. Daniel's breath caught. The memory sharpened his friends shouting. The drunken stranger staggering. The wallet that had fallen from his pocket. A name on a cracked driver's license. He swallowed hard. Michael. Michael Reeves. The man's face contorted. His roar shook the building. "My brother!" He swung the bat down, fury exploding in every muscle. But Daniel was ready. He rolled aside, knife flashing upward. The blade sank into the man's side. The scream that tore from his throat was raw. "Animal!" Daniel ripped the knife free, staggering to his feet. The man swung again, slower now, blood soaking his shirt. Daniel ducked, driving the knife into his arm. The bat clattered to the ground. The man fell to his knees, clutching the wound, eyes blazing with hate. "Liar!" he croaked. Daniel stood over him, chest heaving, knife dripping red. For the first time, the grin was gone. "I'm done lying," Daniel whispered. The man's eyes locked on his, a storm of rage and sorrow. Then his body sagged, collapsing onto the cold, broken floor. His breath rattled once, then faded into silence. Daniel staggered back, trembling, knife slipping from his hand. His vision swam. His lungs burned. "Danny!" His mother's voice cut through the haze. She burst back into the room, eyes wide with horror as she saw the blood, the body, the knife on the floor. Daniel fell into her arms, sobs racking his chest. "I did it, Mom. I killed him. I killed his brother. It was me. It was always me." She held him, rocking him like a child, tears streaming down her face. "It's over, Danny. It's over now." But Daniel knew it wasn't. The truth was out, but the weight of it would never leave him. The man was gone, but his ghost would linger forever. The police found them an hour later, huddled in the snow outside the ruined station. They took the body. They took the knife. They took Daniel's statement, his voice hollow as he confessed everything, not just the fight, not just the man, but the accident 3 years ago. His mother held his hand the whole time, her grip tight, unyielding. When they drove away in the back of the cruiser, the world seemed quieter than it had in years. The lie was dead, but the price of truth had only just begun. Months later, Daniel sat in the cold light of a prison cell. His days were measured by steel doors and clanging footsteps, his nights by the echo of his own thoughts. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was drowning. He had confessed. He had faced the ghost. His mother visited every week, sitting across the scratched glass, her smile tired but warm. She never said she forgave him. She didn't have to. Her presence was enough. Sometimes, late at night, Daniel heard a laugh in his dreams, low, mocking, familiar. He would wake sweating, heart pounding, certain the man stood outside his cell. But when he looked, there was nothing. Just the shadows. Just the truth.